Good Friday, and welcome to day 26 of our Easter devotional series entitled The Road to Easter. My name is Christina, and today's devotional is called The Sceptic Convinced. Today's passage comes from Luke's account of Jesus' life and is found in Luke 23:44-49.
It was about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon, for the sun had stopped shining. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he had said this, he breathed his last. The centurion, seeing what had happened, praised God and said, "Surely this was a righteous man." When all the people who had gathered to witness this sight saw what took place, they beat their breasts and went away. But all those who knew him, including the women who had followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance, watching these things.
You might wonder, after listening to that, why we call today Good Friday. Where's the good in this passage? It just seems to be really full of death and despair. To understand this, we need to look a little bit closer. Now, this passage is written from the perspective of an observer, someone that is watching the scene. We're not given any glimpses into people's thoughts or feelings, just a narrative of the events as they unfold. We're also introduced to another observer of the scene, the Centurion. Now, this Centurion is one of the people whose job it was to watch over the crucifixion of Jesus. Crucifixion is a lengthy process. It can take many hours for the crucified to actually die. We're told at the end of the passage that the Centurion saw what happened, believed, and praised God. So why did this Centurion believe? What did he see that made him do this? Let's dig into the passage to find out. The first thing that we're told the people witnessed is darkness covering the land. Now, as signs go, this is a pretty dramatic one. You're not really going to miss the sun switching off for a little bit. Can you imagine how this might have felt, this complete unexpected darkness? The birds probably stopped singing, and there might have been that feeling of stillness that darkness often brings. Now, when I was a child, I witnessed the total eclipse, and we'd had plenty of time to prepare for this and buy our special goggles, and yet I still remember the awe and the unusualness of that situation. The next event that is spoken about is the temple curtain tearing in two. Now, this is sandwiched in between this unforeseen darkness and Jesus actually dying, so it can seem a bit of a weird, small, inconsequential detail. But actually, this is where we begin to really understand the good of Good Friday. To fully understand this, we need to go right back to the beginning of the Bible and the first time that people messed up. God had made this perfect place, Eden, where he walked and talked with Adam and Eve. But he couldn't have sin in this perfect place. So when Adam and Eve did the one thing he asked them not to, they had to leave. Warrior angels were put at the entrance to Eden. They were a sign to Adam and Eve that because they messed up, they couldn't come into this amazing place where God was. They couldn't come into God's presence. We then fast forward to when God freed the Israelites from slavery and he asked them to build a temple. God gave them some very specific instructions about this temple. And the most amazing part of the temple was called the Most Holy Place. And in this place, God was. His presence was. But God also asked them to make huge temple curtains that separated this most holy place from everywhere else. And on these curtains, warrior angels were woven. These curtains were a keep out sign. God was in this place, and it was amazing, it was perfect. But because the people messed up and sinned, they couldn't go in there. They couldn't be in God's presence. And then hundreds of years later, we come to this verse, where Jesus' death tore this curtain in two. This keep out sign was ripped up. It had been there from the beginning, but because of Jesus' sacrifice for us, we are no longer separated from God. Our sin is no longer a barrier between being in God's presence. That is pretty awesome, and it is why today is so good. We're told the centurion saw and believed. So I ask you, if you don't already, what would make you believe that Jesus is the Son of God? And if you do you need to take some time to remember the wonder of who Jesus is and what he's done for you? There are signs all around us of God's love and Jesus' sacrifice. We can see them in nature, in the people that we love, and throughout the Bible. They might not be big and obvious, like the sun suddenly switching off. They might be more small and thought-provoking, like the temple curtain tearing in two. When the centurion believed, the first thing that he did was praise God. And so I challenge you today to spend some time looking around you at the signs of God and Jesus. And then to spend some time worshipping, praising them for what they've done. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a good Friday.